Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Right on Track. I am so honored to be joined by a very special guest today. Please welcome Jason Davis. Hi, Jason.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Of course. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Fabulous. I'm so excited you're joining me today because you've had quite the journey so far in the entertainment industry, and I'm so excited to dive into all the details. But before we do that, can you share with all the listeners a little about yourself and some of the highlights of your career so far?
Yeah, I started out, broke into the business 24 years ago as a songwriter. Um, that song that got me into the business ended up being a hit song on the radio. I won an ASCAP award for that song, and then started developing a passion to find artists, and started meeting artists and producers and songwriters, and kind of putting developing artists in a sense and trying to get them record deals. And then I eventually, through that journey, started getting closer with music producers and managed some music producers along the way. And today, really been doing very similar thing for about 24 years. But I would call myself a manager above all things in the business, and have a passion for finding artists and trying to help them get a deal, and trying to help them build a career, and hopefully manage them. And love working with songwriters and producers and making records. And yeah, I mean, that's the basics.
Fabulous. So it's very clear that you have worn many hats over the past 2 decades. So before we get into some of the specifics, just in general, what has it been like playing so many different roles in the industry?
I think God has used it to really uh, fine tune my abilities, and shape, you know, me as a person, and me serving artists. It's hard to effectively serve an artist or manage an artist if you haven't touched upon different parts of the business. So I mean, in a sense, if we're talking about a restaurant, to use an analogy, if you've never waited on tables, or you've never been a cook, or you've never managed a restaurant, if you've never done different things within a restaurant, it's probably not the easiest thing to own a restaurant or manage a restaurant. Being in different roles over the years and being involved in different things has really helped broaden my ability to effectively uh, serve an artist in excellence.
Wow, that's amazing. It's almost like over the past 2 decades, you've been piecing together these different areas that eventually led you to be a very well rounded and knowledgeable manager. And so I think that's fantastic.
That is exactly what's been happening for me for these 24 years, and I'm very thankful, because I think most people in life, when they do a job, they would like to be good at it. And this was definitely a journey that I was not great at in the beginning. But I'm very thankful today that I'm good at it. So I'm very thankful.
Oh, for sure. It's lovely to hear. So let's talk a little bit about songwriting because you mentioned a little bit ago how you kind of got your break into the industry at 23 with your songwriting. So, what's your story with beginning to do songwriting, developing your craft, and eventually getting that first cut and seeing your songwriting career snowball into what it became?
I wrote my first song when I was 5 years old with my best friend across the street. Um, we wrote it in his backyard, and he actually, we're not best friends now, but we're still friendly and still friends. He actually remembers the song, which is pretty cool. We tried to form a band together, but we were so little that we could barely even fit on the drum set. So didn't really form a band back then. Wanted to, and then when I was around 13, Formed my first band with some friends down the street of in our neighborhood, and started writing songs with them, my friends. We probably only wrote about 10 songs together as a band from maybe 13 to 15. And around 15, my cousin was throwing away an acoustic guitar that her ex boyfriend had left in her place and he didn't want it anymore. So she was throwing it out, and I couldn't believe she was throwing out an acoustic guitar. And I had wanted one for a few years. And I took that guitar, put it in my bedroom, and that guitar became my best friend, my therapist, my girlfriend. It became my everything. And I became addicted to writing songs, and I couldn't stop writing songs. So I probably wrote either every day or just about every day for the next 8 years, and broke into the business with a song that I'd written when I was 23. And I probably wrote somewhere in between 350 and 400 completed songs in those 8 years. Just took the right song, went on a record, and it became a hit song. And that kind of opened up the doors to me in the music industry. It's crazy. It's 24 years ago, and I was talking to somebody at a radio station the other day who I'm good friends with, and I never knew this. He's like, I added your song to the station I worked at 24 years ago. I was like, no
That's so
way.
cool.
Uh, yeah. So I mean, here I am 24 years later, and somebody in the music industry just probably a week and a half ago mentioned the song to me. So it just took one song.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's what a lot of people do say. But I think it's so cool how you started talking about when you were very young writing songs. I feel like a lot of songwriters kind of start that way. Like when I was writing songs with my friends when I was in like kindergarten and elementary school, I never thought of it as being songwriting because you don't think that when you're so young, but then you kind of see it develop over a period of time. I think that's absolutely incredible. So you mentioned having that one song, and a lot of songwriters dream of that one big song that breaks them through. So, what are some pieces of advice you have for songwriters who are looking to get their music in front of the right people and possibly get that cut?
I think number one, if you want to do it for a career, I think you really, if you're growing, I think you really have to write. You have to write. I think every day, um, and I think you have to be very patient and write a little bit every day. And I would be trying to finish at least one song a week if you can, maybe even more than that. And realize that it's years in the making. You're not going to become an amazing songwriter overnight. And I think, with social media today, I mean, if you're a songwriter and you're decent and you're good and you're putting songs on TikTok, I mean, it's very easy with original songs to get a lot of views, because original songs are interesting content and people are going to TikTok or Instagram looking for interesting content. So, I think, if you have the right songs and you put them out, they're going to get heard, they're going to get seen. Um, I don't think you need to knock over, record label doors, but you could. I mean, if you believe in yourself enough and you think you've got it, I mean, record labels are usually willing to take, an email or a call and, get to know somebody a little bit. But I think, you just have to be really mindful that when you approach, let's say, a record label, cold calling them or something like that, like, you got to really be massively confident in what you have, because you don't want to be known as somebody that's pitching stuff that's not good enough or pitching stuff that doesn't really have much of a chance. You at least at a minimum want to pitch stuff that is, feels at least in the beginning level of competitive, song wise. So that, that's the advice I would give on that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just a quick follow up question with this that I hear different opinions on. So, do you think that we need to have completely fully recorded, like studio, radio ready demos, or can they be more stripped back demos? What do people typically prefer?
I don't think it, I personally don't think it matters.
Okay.
like I have artists that are signed to record labels right now that I manage right now, and what I sent to the record label was literally an iPhone one take recording of an acoustic version of the song.
Perfect.
I have a girl right now, Megan Woods, who's getting a lot of interest from labels, or at least I would say the beginnings of interest from labels, but there's definitely something there. And I mean, I've been sending songs she's written with her doing a one take iPhone vocal recording. And we have 5 record label meetings set up for next week. Actually, one of them is this week. So, I think, if you're writing really solid songs, I think people will be able to hear it. Not everybody will be able to hear it, but people in the music industry have, you know, generally good enough ears to hear something that is um, solid. And if you have something that's really solidly competitive, I think, at worst case scenario, you're going to have an open door to send more material in the future.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's shift a little bit into the artist development side of things, which you have a lot of experience with. So, first, for anyone listening who doesn't know what A&R is and what those executives do, can you just give an overview of the rules?
Like A&Rs at record labels,
Yeah.
I'm sure an A&R at a record label could tell it even better than I can at this point. But I would say that a record label, A&R is somebody that is, somebody that relationally um, keeps a fairly open door to people, puts out a lot of fishing lines, develops a lot of relationships with songwriters, producers, managers, entertainment lawyers, you know, other people at record labels, like just knows kind of what's going on in the business and creates an open door where if you're a manager, songwriter, producer that's really in the mix and has made things happen, you feel that you can text this person or email this person kind of at any moment and show them something, and it'll be a pretty welcoming response. So I think that's the first part of an A&R of what they do is they build relationships and are generally very likable people. Um, and then an A&R's job is also to be able to identify, which is a really huge gift that A&Rs have. It's actually unbelievable how big of a gift A&Rs have. At least the good A&Rs I've met are just crazy gifted at being able to identify somebody that not only has the vocal ability and the potential to you know get decent or good songs on their own even, but just personally identify somebody that's really called to do this, cut out to do this, has the endurance to do this, and is sold out to do it, and really identify people that are likable. That hey, if we release this person, we think people at radio stations that work at radio stations or people that are fans would actually like this person and maybe even want to follow this person and be on board to support this person. Um, so record labels are pretty unbelievable. A&Rs are pretty incredible at identifying people that feel special, people that feel like other people would like them, people that you know seem to have the chops and the passion to really um, stick with this. And so I think, and then of course, helping an artist once they're signed, put together an album, get with the right songwriters and producers, really find out the bullseye of who that artist is, what they're made of musically, and pair them with the right people. Um, and really sell that person to the rest of the record label team, like pump that person up to the radio department and marketing. And so when the rest of the record label teams eventually receives a single from A&R, like they've kind of felt like they've been on this journey and know this artist and they like this artist and kind of get the record label behind that artist.
Perfect. That's fabulous. So, with what you do, over the years, you have worked with some incredible artists, and to name one, Jolly Parton, which I think is incredible. So, can you share some of your favorite moments from that journey, some favorite memories, and just overall what that experience was like working with her?
Pretty much my entire experience working with her was really working for Danny Nozell, who's the president of her record label and also her manager. He kind of is everything Dolly. Um, so him and I several years ago, we just got close. We kind of hit it off. We really liked each other. We would hang out together, and he had asked me to come on board and try to find talent for the company and find artists for the company. And so I brought a couple artists to the company and signed them. But I would say, favorite moments were just I don't know, just I think overall, I mean, there's definitely really cool moments, but I think overall, seeing the inner operation and the inner day-to-day life of what a team and a legendary celebrity is doing and how they're operating and maneuvering uh, was highly educational for me. So I learned a tremendous amount from Danny and also from watching him work and the team work. I did learn. I had short periods of time with Dolly, but I definitely learned from her as well. Just watching how she interacts in a room, but pretty much, it was working for Danny and his leadership, which he's a very very remarkable person, but also a remarkable manager.
That's fabulous, and it's definitely clear that you've learned so much that you're bringing into your own work as a manager now. So, when you're looking for artists to work with, what are things that you look for, and then what are some of your approaches when it comes to developing them and taking an individualistic approach to each artist?
Individualistic is just finding their strengths and weaknesses. I tend to focus more on weaknesses than strengths. Because I find that when you work with when you focus on weaknesses, the strengths get even stronger normally. And I really, usually I'm putting artists in with coaches. I'm usually putting artists in eventually with songwriters. I'm trying to help artists become better writers or, maybe win more if they're in a writing room, like how to walk into a writing room, how to be prepared to write a song with big writers. Um, Eventually producing those songs, working on the live thing with artists, helping artists, try to get onto radio stations. We're kind of, promoting the artist songs. We're kind of doing a little bit of everything. I do have a team. I have a unbelievably like crazy remarkable team that I work with that works for me and with me. And the people on my team are about as incredible as you can possibly get. So a lot of the work is dispersed amongst all of us, and the team is usually carrying a lot of the weight.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your two published books. So, they are Your Love Pursue and Business Backwards. Can you share the synopsis for each of these books and your inspiration behind them?
Your Love Pursues was just many people over years kept telling me that I should write a book about my story. And I at first I kind of laughed it off, like, why would I write a book about my story? Like who would ever read this thing? And like, no, I'm definitely not going to do that. But people kept asking me, and it was a pretty regular thing. And then I just bumped into some people that worked on, had published books, and I don't know, it kind of felt like a prodding that I was supposed to, talk to them about it. And one thing led to another, and I had relationships with kind of everybody that could put a book together. And it kind of seemed like kind of obvious that I was supposed to go do this. So Your Love Pursues is just basically like my life journey in the music industry as a child, how I got in the music business, how I grew musically, how my relationship with God grew, a lot of struggles and hardships and pain I endured before I met God. And then business backwards is just all the years I've been in the music industry. I have seen a lot of things that are not, good examples of how to do business. And I learned in the beginning of my career a lot of bad examples from people of how to do business. So I just felt like there's been a lot of mistakes I made along the way, and thank God some right things I did along the way. And there was a lot of mistakes done to me by other people along the way, and right things done to me along the way. So I felt like there's not you know uh, it, really I wanted to take my experiences and at least put that out there. Um, it almost felt like a responsibility that I had to just put something documented down of what I've learned from my business journey.
That's incredible. That's fantastic. I honestly think one of the most important things is giving back. And by you writing that book and putting out what you've learned and seen over the years is definitely giving back to people to learn from as well. So I think that's amazing.
Mhm. Thank you.
For sure. So that leads right into my next question. After 24 years in this business, you've definitely learned lessons. So, what are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned that you like to pass on to others?
None of these lessons came easy, and none of these lessons came quick. But I think caring about people before you care about yourself is a very powerful thing to do. Trying to put people before you, trying to really figure out and pray and ask God and ask others, how do you really love people well? How do you serve people well? How do you care about people well? Um, I think, there's nothing more important than a relationship. I've made mistakes with relationships over the years. I've gotten some relationships right. Thankfully, as I've gone on over these years, I've made less mistakes as the years have gone on. But I think, there's nothing more important than I think loving people well, caring about people, serving people well, and really desiring to put people before yourself.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, I have one more question for you, and this is for all of the songwriters and artists listening who have big dreams to make it in the industry. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave them with?
I think the biggest thing is the song. And I think to work really, really hard on the song thing and to really torture songs and, be willing to fight for songs. And, when I say fight, I mean in love, but really being willing to dig deeper than you want to go to make sure you have the right songs.
Wow, absolutely perfect. Jason, thank you so much for joining me to share all your wisdom and your experiences and your story. It's been so inspiring. Before we go, can you share with everyone where they can find you online and see all that you have going on?
I mean, most of our business we do is either through our company 117 or our company Noble Management. Um, those are the two primary places to find us.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for joining me. This has been such an honor. Listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of Right on Track with Jason Davis. And of course, until next time,
Stay
stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.